Hey, what's up everyone? Oh, did I scare you? I'm sorry. Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to another review for the month of Gorror. This is number whatever, it doesn't matter anymore. And this time, I am taking a look at the final movie in the Phantasm series, Phantasm 5, Ravager. This movie was long awaited by many people. When I first heard it was announced, like it was coming out like last year, I was like, "Oh, cool!" I never watched any of the other Phantasm movies. I only watched the first one when I was a kid. But that's kind of cool that there's a new one coming out, and it's gonna have Angus Scrimm in it. I mean, he's really old at this point, but I mean, he could just stand around and look creepy. That's all he really needs to do. And yay! I was actually kind of excited, even though I've never seen any of the other Phantasm movies. I only saw the first one. I was still excited because I was like, yeah, I'm happy for all the people that love that franchise and maybe didn't get enough of a resolution from the fourth one. And I know the other ones aren't supposed to be amazing or anything, but people have embraced them and liked them a lot. Just like people embrace some of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies that suck, and some of the Friday the 13th movies that suck, and Halloween movies that suck. People embrace them, and you know what? I like this as its own thing. So I totally respect that. So I was going into this knowing nothing about the other three movies in the series that I never saw, 2, 3, and 4. And I was expecting to be extremely weirded out because the first one weirded me out, and that's the first movie. That's the introduction to the series. So this is the fifth one without knowing anything about the other three. I was already waiting to be blown away. Let's talk about Phantasm 5 Ravager. For all you big Phantasm fans out there that have been waiting for another movie in this series, and maybe one just to wrap everything up, if you didn't like the ending of the fourth movie or whatever, I am happy to announce that this movie is actually entertaining and weird, and has plenty of the stuff you love in Phantasm back once again in Phantasm Ravager. Is it a perfect movie? No, definitely not. It's a very low budget film. I wouldn't even be surprised if this movie had the same budget as the original Phantasm movie did, because yeah, there's times where you could tell, yeah, there's no big actors really in this movie. There's no really amazing special effects. It's all really cheesy and terrible looking, and even the practical effects, like the blood, looks fake as hell. But that's all great for a movie like this, you know? We don't need realistic anything for this. We just need a fun, entertaining, weird-ass movie like the original. Again, I never watched 2, 3, and 4, but to be fair, I did read a plot synopsis of each of those movies just so I know where we are in this story. And really, this movie isn't really that confusing. I would say you don't even need to watch 2, 3, and 4. Or you could just watch this movie and you'd be like, okay, so something happened, there's a tall guy. They do a good job of explaining what is happening in the story in the beginning of this movie. You don't need to know anything about Phantasm to watch this one. They do a damn good job. You know, I guess now the main character is Reggie, the ice cream guy from the first one, and you follow him as he tracks down the tall man and also tries to save his friend Mike, who was the kid from the first movie. And that's really the story. That's the story. He meets up with other characters, some resistance fighters. There's a screwy little story about like time bending and stuff, but I'm not getting into that because, first of all, just go see it. Just go see it. Enjoy it. Sit back, maybe, you know, bring a couple friends over that like Phantasm also. Watch it with them. You'll have a good time. I promise you'll at least enjoy some of it. So Phantasm Ravager is not something that you'll absolutely love. Maybe you will if you really love all the Phantasm movies and you're just a huge fan of Phantasm and you want to see the tall man again and you want to see the metallic spears or the metallic balls that attach to people's faces and drain the blood out. If you want to see all that stuff, you get it and you'll probably love it. But if you're someone that likes the other Phantasm movies and loves the first one, then you'll enjoy this one. You won't love it. Maybe you will. Maybe. There's a chance you will. But for the most part, you'll probably like either some of it or all of it or little parts of it, but I don't think you'll hate it. It's not a movie worth hating at all because there's some good stuff, okay? The acting is much better in this one than it was in the original. The original, like I said in my review, the acting was pretty poor from pretty much everybody, besides Angus Scrimm as the tall man, who's great in this also. He's old as hell, and he is still knocking it out of the park when it comes to performances like this. Sadly, he passed away, so we won't see him as the tall man anymore, but this is a great send-off because he's in it quite a bit too, and he's great. He really is. He's still tall. Even though he got much older, he's still a tall dude, and he is creepy, and he still does the stare perfectly, and he has that voice. He talks much more than he does in the original Phantasm in this one, let me tell you. And he does a great job. I really like that guy. But even the main trio, you have Jody, you have Reggie, and you have Mike. Mike is the kid from the original. Jody's the brother of the kid in the original, and Reggie's the guy with the ice cream truck. And really in this movie, and maybe it's the same for the other sequels, I think I read that Reggie is more of the main character than anybody else now, which is strange because he was really a side character in the original, but I guess everybody loved him, or Don Coscarelli loved him so much he was like, yeah, I'm going to make him the main character. Because in this one, he is the main character, and he is really charming. I actually really like that actor. The actor's name is also Reggie, and he is really likable. I really enjoyed him in this film. He's actually pretty charming. He does a good job with some of the cheesy one-liners and stuff. He's not a great actor, don't get me wrong. He looks a lot like the guy that plays Hank from Breaking Bad. So that was a little distracting, but he's still really charming in this. The guy that plays Jody, he's barely in it, and he looks completely different than he did in the original film. But he's fine. He's a little bit better than he was in the original movie, but he's not really in it too much. The guy that played Mike, he's grown up now, so he looks completely different, obviously. But he does a good job as well, considering what the movie is as a straight DVD low-budget horror movie. You have to expect there to be not amazing acting in this. Some of the side characters, are acted decently for what this is, but there's not amazing acting, but it's definitely better. That's why I said better acting. Not great acting, better than the original, which I think is true. The special effects are cheesy as all hell and pretty terrible, but the budget, like I said, was very small, and there's some things that they had to use special effects for in this movie. Like the CG blood, they didn't need to do that, but there's things in this that they had to use special effects. Like there's a whole sequence towards the end, which if you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about. That had to have been special effects. And it could have looked better, obviously, but it was such a low budget. I mean, what do you expect? And the special effects don't ruin anything. Like I said, it's cheesy and actually adds to the movie, and you actually like, oh, look at all this. And they tried, and there's some weirdness in those special effects that you may go, wow, this is actually kind of inventive. So you have to give them credit there, too. And probably the biggest positive I have for this film is that you can tell there is a love for the source throughout the entire runtime. You could tell the director and the co-writer, I think it's actually co-written by Don Coscarelli, and I'm pretty sure, I know it's produced by him, but I think he might have also helped write this movie. I'm not completely sure, but you could tell everybody that made it, even the actors that have been with it for pretty much their entire lives, you could tell they love the source. They love this series, and they're having a great time. So when you're watching this, you're not watching a bunch of boring actors getting bored with the material. You are watching people enjoy themselves while making this film. And that's probably the biggest positive, because the Phantasm movies are nothing but weird fun. And you could tell they're having a good time, and you also will probably have a good time as well. There's tons of references too, so if you're a big Phantasm fan, I keep saying that, but if you are a fan of Phantasm, you will like all the little in-jokes and references. There's even characters that show up where I didn't watch the sequels, but even I was like, that's probably a character from one of the sequels, and I looked it up, and I was like, yeah, I was right. That's what I figured. So yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff, but of course, there's a lot of negatives as well. This movie is very cheaply made. You could tell it didn't have much of a budget. Like I said before, some of the special effects are not that great, and even though that doesn't really hurt the film, there is times where the special effects are so poor, you're like, they could have kept working on that. I'm sure they could have made that look a little bit better. Like the spears themselves, the balls, the metal balls, look pretty good for the most part. Those balls look good. But they look fine when they're special effects. But there's times where like there's just things I can't explain, like the CG blood. A head explodes and it's CG and it looks pretty bad. But there's things I can't explain because it would spoil towards the end of the film. That they could have put some more work into that. That's for sure. There's a slow beginning. The beginning is really slow. The first 10 minutes I would say is really entertaining. But then maybe like the next 15 minutes. Reggie meets up with some girl, and there's like a little love story, even though he's like 65 and she's like 20, which was weird. But besides that, it picks up from there, and there's some cringe-worthy humor at times, but it's a fun little ride with some decent humor, and you'll enjoy it. You will. This is probably one of the hardest reviews I had to do, because I really don't want to piss anybody off, but this is really a movie made for the fans. I've said this like 20 times at this point, but if you are a big fan of Phantasm, you will enjoy this film. You will like it. Will you love it? Maybe not. You may love it, you may like it. I don't think you'll hate it, though. It is a nice little love letter to the series, and if you love these characters and these actors, go watch it. Watch them, have fun, and you'll also have fun in the process. I will give this a 26 out of 40. It's weird. It's great to see the tall man again. Angus Scrimm is great. It has a lot of blood. There's some bad CG. It's cheaply made, sadly. There wasn't much of a budget, and there's times where it kind of gets lost in its own convoluted plot. I will say that. But overall, it's still an enjoyable film, and it's a nice, decent way to end this series. So anyway, there you go. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, and until next time, goodbye.